All right, so Ghost of Tsushima is hands down one of the most beautiful open world games out there. From exploring peaceful villages to battling it out with enemies and epic sword fights, it's got that perfect samurai vibe. The combat feels super satisfying, whether you're charging in head on or sneaking around in the shadows. That said, the stealth, it's just okay. You can crouch and hide in tall grass, but the enemies aren't very sharp, so sneaking feels too easy most of the time. Still, sword fights are intense and the controls are smooth, making it super fun to play. The story's a slow burn at first, but it totally pays off. You play as Jin, a samurai torn between honor and survival during an invasion. It's simple but emotional, with plenty of memorable moments. It won't blow your mind, but you'll definitely be hooked by the end. Visually, this game is stunning, like jaw-dropping levels of gorgeous. The environments are detailed, and the lighting makes everything feel alive. Plus, the sunsets are seriously some of the best in any game. There are a few pre-rendered cutscenes that don't look as sharp, but honestly, the rest of the game more than makes up for it. The soundtrack sets the mood perfectly. You get calm, peaceful tunes while exploring and intense music during fights. Sound effects, like the wind and clashing swords, really pull you into the world. It's not the most memorable soundtrack ever, but it totally gets the job done. All in all, Ghost of Tsushima is a game you'll want to experience. Sure, there are some minor bugs, and not everything is perfect, but the beautiful world, solid gameplay, and emotional story make it worth your time. If you're into samurai stories or just want a chill yet engaging game, this one's definitely worth checking out. Ori and the Will of the Wisps is a stunning sequel that brings everything we loved about the original and turns it up a notch. From its breathtaking visuals to the tight, buttery smooth gameplay, it's a joy to experience. Sure, there are a few hiccups here and there, but overall, this game delivers an amazing adventure packed with heart, challenge, and creativity. Let's start with the gameplay. It's so fluid, like you just feel unstoppable once you get the hang of it. You're zipping through areas with double jumps, dashes, wall clings, and more. At first, you might feel clumsy, but soon it clicks, and every move feels satisfying. Combat also got a major glow up with cool new abilities that keep things fresh. It's challenging, but in a fun way, just be ready to die a lot while figuring it all out. The story is simple, yet heartwarming. Ori and their little owl buddy set off on a journey that's filled with touching moments. It's not super deep, but it doesn't need to be. The way the characters move and interact tells you everything. And honestly, the game's emotional beats hit harder thanks to its gorgeous presentation and music. The graphics are just amazing. The art design is a total showstopper. Everything looks like it was pulled straight out of a painting, with lush environments, glowing lights, and vibrant colors. Even the tiniest details in the background are mesmerizing. It's like exploring a living, breathing masterpiece. Seriously, I could stare at this game for hours and not get bored. The music is just magical. Each track fits perfectly with the mood of the game, whether it's an intense chase sequence or a calm, peaceful moment. And the sound effects are spot on. Every jump, swing, and attack sounds just right. Ori and the Will of the Wisps is more than just a game, it's an adventure. The tight controls, gorgeous visuals, and heartfelt story come together to create something truly special. Next, we have The Last of Us Part 2. This game takes you on an emotional roller coaster with its intense moments and deep storytelling. While some fans may feel divided about the direction of the story, there's no denying the overall impact and quality. If you loved the first game, you'll find a lot to appreciate here, though it's not without its ups and downs. The gameplay feels similar to the first game, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. The action is intense with a real focus on survival. You're crafting weapons, sneaking around, and battling enemies in the most desperate ways possible. The difficulty ramps up the tension, but sometimes it feels like you're doing the same thing over and over. While there are a few new tricks like being able to crawl prone or use a knife, I was hoping for more variety in how you approach stealth. The AI is a bit hit or miss. with enemies sometimes being way smarter, but other times acting kinda dumb. Overall, it's a strong experience, but by the end, the repetitive nature of the gameplay starts to wear on you. The story takes some bold risks that might divide fans. After experiencing the incredible story in Part 1, it's hard not to feel a little disappointed here. The first game set a bar that's really tough to reach, and unfortunately, Part 2 doesn't quite live up to that level of storytelling. You spend a lot of time with characters, and some of the emotional moments really hit home. However, some story decisions didn't work for me, and they might not work for you either. It's a long ride, and by the end, you'll have some mixed feelings. Still, it's a story that's worth experiencing, even if it's not perfect. Visually, The Last of Us Part 2 is one of the best looking games around. It's a masterpiece in how it designs environments and brings characters to life. The remastered version on PS5 makes everything even smoother, with faster loading times and sharper graphics. The game now runs at 1440p and 60 FPS in performance mode, and at 4K the game looks really amazing. Everything looks gorgeous, and the emotional depth in the characters' faces really stands out. If you're playing the remastered version, it's definitely a smoother and more polished experience. The soundtrack is haunting and fits perfectly with the tone of the game. It does a great job of creating tension during the scary moments and adds emotional depth to the quieter, more reflective scenes. While it's not a standout like in some other games, it's still really effective and enhances the experience. The Last of Us Part 2 is a deep, intense game that will leave you thinking long after you finish it. While the gameplay can feel repetitive at times, and the story isn't perfect, it's still an unforgettable experience. The remastered version adds some great improvements in visuals and performance, making it the best way to play the game. If you're a fan of the series, this one's worth your time. Next, we have Elden Ring. This game is huge, challenging, and super fun. It has that classic RPG feel with tons of open world freedom, and it feels like a big step forward for the genre. The gameplay is classic RPG with a twist. You've got tons of options for character builds and weapon types, which makes every playthrough feel fresh. Combat is challenging but rewarding, and the jump button adds a new layer of depth. If you enjoy action-packed combat, you'll love it. The world is massive, and the sense of discovery is awesome. Finding hidden bosses and items will keep you hooked for hours. But if you're new to this type of game, be ready for some tough moments. The story is a bit mysterious but interesting. You play as a tarnished in a world torn apart, trying to become the Elden Lord. It's not super in your face, but you can piece things together by talking to characters and exploring. Game of Thrones author George R.R. Martin worked on some world building, and it shows in the lore. The story's a bit vague, but it's still intriguing and fits well with the game's atmosphere. The game looks great for the most part. The environments are unique, with stunning lighting and weird, fantastical elements. The further you go, the more impressive the visuals get, and it definitely helps set the mood for exploration. The soundtrack really sets the tone, adding to the atmosphere of the game. The music gets intense during boss battles, making them feel epic. There's a good mix of calm, eerie tracks and intense fight music. It's not overwhelming, but fits perfectly with the world you're exploring. Overall, Elden Ring is an absolutely brilliant game and a must-play for any action RPG fan. Next, we have one of the most anticipated games of 2024, Black Myth Wukong. This game is an ambitious and visually stunning action RPG that captures the essence of Chinese mythology like never before. It's a game that impresses with its technical achievements and deep respect for its source material. However, while it excels in many areas, it's not without its flaws. The gameplay is a blend of challenging, Soulsborne-inspired combat with a unique twist. Players can transform into various creatures, each with its own abilities which adds variety to the action. The combat is fluid and satisfying, rewarding precise timing and strategy. However, it's not without issues. The difficulty can feel artificially inflated with enemies that hit excessively hard and scarce healing items. While the transformations are fun, they can feel underutilized, often limited to specific scenarios. Despite these drawbacks, the boss battles are exceptional, delivering unforgettable and visually spectacular challenges. The game's story draws heavily from the 500-year-old classic Journey to the West, seamlessly continuing its tale. The attention to detail in storytelling is commendable, with nods to ancient Chinese culture, proverbs, and traditions. However, the story struggles to engage on a personal level. The protagonist, Wukong, is a silent character with little emotional depth, making it hard to connect with his journey. While the world building is immersive, the lack of a strong, overarching villain or cohesive narrative thread leaves the story feeling fragmented and lacking in tension. Visually, Black Myth Wukong is nothing short of breathtaking. Built on Unreal Engine 5, the game's environments are stunningly detailed, from lush bamboo forests to majestic temples. Character models are intricately designed, and the cutscenes are cinematic masterpieces. The technical performance is solid with no major bugs or crashes reported. However, while the visuals are groundbreaking, they set such a high standard that the gameplay occasionally feels secondary to the spectacle. The music in Black Myth Wukong is another standout element, blending traditional Chinese instruments with modern compositions to create a haunting and epic score. It perfectly complements the tone of the game, whether you're exploring tranquil landscapes or battling formidable foes. The voice acting, especially in its original language, adds depth and authenticity to the characters. Overall, Black Myth Wukong is a bold and innovative game that showcases the immense potential of its developers. Its stunning visuals, epic boss fights, and respect for Chinese mythology make it a standout experience. However, its lackluster storytelling and repetitive gameplay mechanics hold it back from achieving true greatness. Next, we have Forza Horizon 5. This game combines that festival party feel with some solid, fast-paced action. You've got deserts, jungles, cities, even volcanoes, and everything looks stunning. If you love the previous games, this one's like a bigger, better road trip. The gameplay? Oh man, it's a blast. You can fine-tune everything to make it feel more arcade or realistic, your call. The open world setup keeps you hooked with tons of stuff to explore and random events popping up everywhere. Driving feels smooth and the variety of race types keeps things fresh. Though, sometimes there's almost too much going on. Graphics? Oh boy, this game is gorgeous. Whether you're tearing through mud or cruising along the coast, every detail pops. The lighting, the cars, the environments. It's like playing inside a postcard. And on performance mode, it's silky smooth. Seriously, this is one of the prettiest games I've seen. The soundtrack keeps the energy high with upbeat tunes that fit the festival vibe perfectly. Plus, the roar of engines and sound design really immerse you in the world. Just, maybe turn down the dialogue if it's not your thing. Overall, Forza Horizon 5 is a solid win. Tons of cars, endless activities, and an amazing world to explore. Sure, there are some glitches and the occasional sensory overload, but if you're into racing, this is a must-play. Next, we have Horizon Forbidden West. It's a sequel that takes everything great about the first game, Horizon Zero Dawn, and builds on it in some seriously awesome ways. We're talking bigger, more beautiful environments, deeper gameplay mechanics, and an engaging story with plenty of twists. Sure, it's not perfect, but man, it's a solid ride from start to finish. Whether you're into exploring vast landscapes or battling giant robot dinosaurs, this game's got something for you. So, let's break it down. The gameplay here is super fun. You've got tons of weapons, from your trusty bow to explosive spear launchers. The combat's all about strategy, learning your enemies, targeting weak spots, and using the right elemental attacks. And yeah, sneaking around in tall grass to ambush robots never gets old. But don't worry, they've spiced up human combat too, with better melee options and more dynamic fights. Traversal's a blast with new tools like a grappling hook and glider, though some enemies can still be a pain to dodge. Overall, it feels fresh but familiar in all the best ways. Now, the story is a bit of a slow burn, but once it picks up, you're hooked. Aloy's on another mission to save the world, uncovering more secrets about the old ones while navigating tribal politics and sci-fi craziness. The cutscenes are beautifully done and the characters feel real, like they could walk off the screen. Even the side quests tell compelling little stories that add depth to the world. It's definitely a step up from the first game, though newcomers might feel a bit lost without playing Zero Dawn first. Visually, just wow. This game is jaw-droppingly gorgeous. The environments are super detailed, from lush jungles to icy mountains. You can almost feel the sand beneath your feet or the chill of snow-covered peaks. Character models are insanely realistic, especially their facial expressions, which really sell the emotional moments. It's pure eye candy. The soundtrack? Chef's kiss. It's dynamic, switching between tense beats during fights and calming melodies when you're exploring.
What? I'll handle this!
I have her!
Got ya!
The sound design is just as good. Every machine has its own distinct mechanical roar, and the voice acting? Top-notch. Aloy's performance really shines, and the supporting cast does a fantastic job too. It's the kind of audio experience that pulls you right into the world. All in all, Horizon Forbidden West is a must-play for fans of the first game and anyone who loves open-world adventures. It's not without its quirks, like some minor bugs and clunky climbing, but the good far outweighs the bad. Between the epic combat, stunning visuals, and a world packed with things to do, this game offers hours of fun. If you're ready to dive into a breathtaking post-apocalyptic world, this one's worth your time.
Oh, here he comes.
Next, we have The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. This game has been getting insane reviews, and for good reason. It takes that classic Zelda magic and combines it with an open world. The gameplay is huge. The world is massive, and you have total freedom to explore. Combat's a bit tougher than usual. Your weapons break fast, but it keeps things interesting. Plus, the stamina system adds a cool layer of strategy when you're exploring or fighting. Some of the mechanics in the game are super unique and make this game even more interesting. The story is classic Zelda. You are Link, waking up to save Hyrule from Calamity Ganon. It's not super deep, but the fun comes from making your own adventure in this giant world. The voice acting's a nice touch, though it's not perfect. The graphics aren't the best out there, but the art style is gorgeous. The world is full of vibrant colors, stunning sunsets, and cool lighting. It runs on older hardware, but honestly, it still looks great and keeps you immersed. The soundtrack is chill and perfect for exploring or battling. It's not super loud, but it really sets the mood and makes the world feel magical. You'll find yourself enjoying the music, even when you're just wandering around. Overall, Breath of the Wild is a masterpiece. It took some risks, but they totally paid off. The world is vast, exploration is rewarding, and it's packed with things to discover. If you're a Zelda fan or love open-world games, this one's a must-play. Alright, so Baldur's Gate 3 is finally here, and wow, this one's big. It's a full-blown Dungeons & Dragons adventure, packed with choices, cool characters, and a story that just sucks you right in. Whether you're a longtime fan or totally new to this, it's got something for everyone. Let's break it down. Gameplay, story, graphics, soundtrack, and overall vibes. Ready? Let's do this. The gameplay is where Baldur's Gate 3 shines. It's a turn-based RPG, so you've got time to plan your moves. No rushing, just good strategy. You can create your own character or pick a preset one, and the combat? It's tough but fair, like you really gotta think. Oh, and it's super flexible. You can sneak, blow stuff up, or even talk your way out of fights. The only downside? Sometimes it's a bit much to handle. Okay, the story? It's perfect. You start off with a creepy mind flayer tadpole in your head, and things just get wilder from there. There's political drama, dark mysteries, and of course, saving the world stuff. Every choice matters, and there are so many ways things can go. Honestly, it feels like playing through a great fantasy novel. It's deep, emotional, and sometimes a little confusing if you lose track of quests. This game is a looker. From detailed character faces to lush forests and spooky caves, it's all beautifully crafted. Sure, there are a few awkward animations like climbing ladders, but overall, it's impressive. If your PC can handle it, the visuals are just amazing. The lighting, the textures, even the little details like armor shine. Yep, top notch. The music here totally fits the vibe, epic when it needs to be and chill when you're just exploring. The voice acting is also solid. Every character sounds unique and brings their personality to life. A few tracks might repeat a bit too often, but honestly, you're so wrapped up in the game you barely notice. So, Baldur's Gate 3 is a journey. It's huge, it's fun, and yeah, it can be a little overwhelming at times, but it's worth it. Whether you're strategizing in combat, exploring the world, or just hanging out with your party, there's always something cool to do. Just don't forget to save your game, trust me on that. If you're into RPGs or just love a great story, this is a must play. Alright, let's talk Red Dead Redemption 2, a game that's been out for a while but still feels like a masterpiece. It's got this vibe that just pulls you in. You've got this gritty Wild West setting, a deep story, and a world that feels so real, you almost forget it's a game. Rockstar didn't just make a game. They made a world that's alive, unpredictable, and full of little details that really make it stand out. The gameplay? Oh man, it's all about that realism. You're riding around on your horse, getting into gunfights, hunting, and doing random cowboy stuff. The movement's kind of heavy. It feels like Arthur's a real person, you know? And the shooting mechanics? They feel pretty solid, though it does rely a bit on auto-aim. But hey, Deadeye mode makes it super fun to line up shots. There's also this whole thing with taking care of your horse. It's not just a ride, it's like your buddy. Plus, the hunting mechanics are surprisingly deep. Track animals, stay downwind, and use the right weapons for a clean kill. It's a lot, but honestly, it's really satisfying once you get into it. So, the story follows Arthur Morgan, this tough but tired outlaw trying to survive with his gang as the Wild West fades away. Even if you didn't play the first Red Dead, you're good. This one's a prequel and stands on its own. The characters, they're great. Some old faces, some new ones, and all of them feel real. The camp where you hang out with your gang really makes it feel like you're part of something. The pacing's a bit slow at first, but trust me, once it picks up, you'll be hooked. Visually, it's stunning. The landscapes are just amazing, from snowy mountains to swampy marshes and even a full-on city. And the little things, like Arthur's beard growing or mud sticking to his clothes, just add to the immersion. Whether you're exploring on foot or horseback, you'll find yourself stopping just to, admire the stunning views that this game offers. Oh, and if you're on PC, you get to enjoy smoother performance and more graphical options compared to consoles. The soundtrack's got that classic Western feel. You've got these subtle background tracks when you're exploring and more intense ones during shootouts. But what really stands out is the ambient sound. The wind, the birds, even the creaking of your saddle. It all adds to the experience. It's like the game's world has its own rhythm, and you're just living in it. And the voice acting? Top notch. Arthur's voice actor really nails that tired but tough vibe. Overall, this game is something special. It's got that mix of realism and fun that's hard to find. Sure, it's slow at times, and yeah, there's a lot to keep track of, but once you're in, you're in. Whether you're playing for the story, the world, or just to mess around and see what random stuff happens, it's worth it. If you haven't played it yet, or even if you have, it's a ride you won't forget. So, grab your hat, saddle up, and dive into the Wild West. Thanks for hanging out. If you enjoyed the list, don't forget to drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the bell so you never miss out on more awesome game recommendations. See you in the next one.